Hi, everyone.
So we thought it would be fun to just come on Instagram Live and talk about the show so far, which were you able to finish all 8 episodes that have come out? I finished 8 just like a little while ago.
No, okay, so I watched like part of 7 and then tried to speed watch, and it was these were huge episodes. I did watch a section of 8 though, so I think I know the spoilers, so we
Oh
can
no!
go right ahead.
Okay, so why don't we talk about the show itself first, and then we'll maybe in the second half we can dive more specifically into spoilers for those who don't really want those.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Okay, so very briefly, if you aren't watching the Spies Who Loved Me, it has Yuena, Eric, and Anisa, what's the name of the second lead?
Im Joo-hwan.
Im Joo-hwan. I keep forgetting.
Who will always be
And
Park Kyu from Tamarind Island to me.
he was so cute in that drama. Okay, so Yuena used to be married to the the Interpol spy, which is played by Eric, and had a disastrous marriage because she never knew that he was a spy. And now she's married to a sort of a corporate espionage spy,
He's an industrial spy.
industrial spy. That's right. So somehow this girl keeps marrying spies and doesn't know that her husbands are spies. So that's what we're watching.
Yeah, so you kind of get they kind of come back into each other's lives because of this particular case that starts off in episode 1 of like her best friend is getting married, but if things aren't as they seem, and there's a secret that her friend is hiding, and then all of this stuff happens, and so it turns out she's involved in something shady with like industrial espionage, and she wants to like start over and live a new life. This is all in like episode 1, so I don't think it's spoilery. And so he is also investigating, or well, he is her contact. So he comes to where the wedding is supposed to be, and of course it's Yuina's best friend, so she's in the wedding. She made the dress. Her friend even introduced her and her new spy husband. And so all these people are entangled in this one case, and things just kind of explode in a way. And then they get entangled in each other's lives again. Yeah.
Right. And because this chat is going to be full of spoilers, you get your warning right here. Anything and everything we say from this point onwards is going to be spoilers for episodes 1 through 7 and 8. Okay, so if you haven't watched, better just don't watch this live, or the video later. Don't watch it.
Come back
Go watch the
later
drama
when you've
first.
watched. Yeah, because I feel like this is a show where the spoilers do matter because of the way that the plot unfolds and the case unfolds, and you find out all these revelations about like who's who and who's involved in what and what everybody knows. So yes, beware of spoilers.
Exactly. So number one spoiler, this friend of Yuna's name is Arum here. I keep forgetting. This friend of Arum's ends up dying in a pretty well sad way, because she almost escapes death, and then it's pretty brutal. And Arum witnesses that, more or less. She doesn't say who killed her, but it pretty much happens right next to her. So she can't let it go. Even though the press doesn't talk about it, everybody else hushes about it, she can't let it go. And now suddenly into her life comes her ex-husband, whom she knows as a travel writer whose books don't sell. And she thinks that he was doing like a part-time gig as a pole dancer at her friend's wedding.
Yeah, that was his cover.
So that's what she thinks he's there for, and he kind of like sticks to her because he knows that she witnesses the murder. So, actually, before that, he sticks to her because they're both trying to find the bride she was missing. Anyway, that entire thing happens, and then they come back to Seoul, and Eric, what is Eric's name? And he said,
Ji-hoon. His name is Ji-hoon, and her new husband's name is Derek. That's Im Joo-hwan's character.
Right. Ji-hoon, which, by the way, let me just take a moment and say that Eric is surprising me so much in this character. I mean, I know the man has comic timing, but he actually does comedy to drama. The shifts, it's really fluid the way they do it. And I wasn't expecting so much complexity of emotion in what amounts to be like a spy thriller, like a, I don't know, a
But you
dramedy.
should have expected it. Why do you think I love him so much? He's so good. He can do anything. No, I mean, he does. I mean, I'm not surprised, but it's really fun to watch because there is a really great balance of like, on one hand, he plays this like person who's full of regret and misery and like, you know, disappointments and
Oh,
failure, who's also like really good at his job, but he's also just like a bachata. And he doesn't even have to like talk. You just get that feeling from him.
oh,
Like he's just a, you know, pusanghe. And then on the other hand, he's so funny. So it's like he can switch on a dime, and like he's always been able to do that. I think this is a really good role for him to just switch on, you know, those things really quickly and exactly at the right moment. And because Yuna is also so good at that, she brings the
oh,
emotion and she brings the comedy and she has the charisma. Like the two of them together are just so much fun to watch, no matter what they're doing, whether they're fighting or like arguing, or it's like a
agreed.
flashback scene where they're in love with each other. It's just really, really good.
Like for some reason I could never have imagined exactly this pairing, but it's like with every emotional scene that they do together. I, for instance, the scene where she finds out that he is a spy because his boss outs him,
Oh my
and
gosh, that
it's
boss is like so brutal.
I mean the entire scene. I was just rewatching it yesterday because it has to be my favorite scene in the entire drama till now. It starts out as comedy because she's in his boss's office thinking that, oh, it's about the murder. He just wants to discuss this with me because I witnessed it. And then the boss kind of tricks Jihoon into coming in his like proper, like his uniform, and he walks in, and Arum sees Jihoon and she's like, what is this? Like, is this candid camera? Like, what? What kind of a joke is this? It starts out really funny. And then there's this shift where realization dawns, but also the hurt dawns. Like,
Mm.
her realization is kind of like she's believing him, and as she's believing him, the obvious implications of his lie kind of keep hitting her, and her face changes as these realizations happen. And Eric's, oh my, I can't get over this head tilt that Eric does when he feels like he has nothing left to say in his justification, and he's really sorry, but he can't, like, he won't fight, but he's just, yeah, he
The
doesn't know
weight
what else
of
to say.
unspoken misery. Yeah, he does that
Oh,
really,
his
really
head
well.
just goes down, and I'm like, ah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think what really I wasn't expecting this drama to be so emotionally like gut wrenching. I thought it was gonna be like a light spy. I mean, maybe I should have expected that since it's like her former husband and her new husband, and probably something's gonna, you know, get messed up. But I just feel like both in the dialogue and also in what's not said, they do such a good job of exploring all the myriad emotions of like, you know, Arm's feelings about failing in her first marriage and not wanting to fail in her second marriage, and like the kind of decisions that she made when she got married for the second time versus what she did in her first wedding, and like kind of how that has shaped even like what kind of person she decided to marry, because the person that she married for the second time was, he had all those sort of like stereotypical perfect qualities that in the first time she was just like, I just love you so much. And like there was this one scene where she's talking to her friend, I think, and she says, in my first wedding I just was looking at my groom, and in my second wedding I was looking at, was it her dress, or she was,
I
no,
think,
she was worried about herself. So it was like
right.
in the first wedding she was like kind of all in the person that she wanted to spend the rest of her life with, and the second one was more about protecting herself and
Yeah.
protecting her own happiness. But then
Oh,
like, did you get to that part in episode 7 where they're doing the photo shoot with the cake, her and
oh,
Derek?
yeah. Oh my God, that was so telling.
That was
I
such a good
know.
scene because she's like, tell me the truth, tell me the truth. And he's like, nothing's wrong. He keeps like giving her that smile that he always does. And she's like, I thought you were a really sweet person. But it turns out it's just like the cream on top of the cake. But like what's
Oh,
inside, I don't even know. Like the sweetness is hiding who you really are. And she just like squirts him full of frosting in his face. He's like, what's going on? I don't
I
know how
know,
they
but
make it funny and sad at the same time.
oh, they like the opening scene of the drama had kind of it felt like a throwback to the early 2000s. Like it was Arum is standing in this kind of gilded cage where she's working on a dress, and the music is so old, like old decadey, like early 2000s. I wasn't expecting this level of writing or
Yeah.
performance, honestly.
And I was really surprised. So I went and looked at the writer and the director, and like the director has never really done anything in this genre before, and the writer has only written movies. So I'm like very, very impressed.
Right? Okay, coming back to that cake thing, when they're deciding what to write on their frostings, I think, and her new groom is like Derek is like, "I'll always love you," and she's like, let's just be truthful to each other."
And her friend's like, that sounds more like a commandment. I was like, yes, do it.
Oh man, but that actually, because we've discussed this before. The thing that worried me about this particular drama going in was she is more or less happily, she doesn't know who her new husband is, but she thinks she's happily married to this guy, right? And I didn't really want to be rooting for her ex-husband while she's happily married to this guy. It just felt wrong to me going in. So my worry was, is this going to be like a homebreaker story? Like what? Homebreaker, sorry, story. How are they going to do this? I like that they explained her the process that she went through, like how she almost impulsively married Ji-hoon. She was in a bad financial state. Her business was not doing well. She was in crippling debt. She just wanted a supportive husband, and Ji-hoon wasn't even there. I think in 18 months of their marriage, he wasn't there for an entire year, pretty much. He was
Mm-hmm.
just taking off every month or so randomly without, and I was just, it was the flashbacks to their marriage is actually painful. Like you can see why both of them are kind of traumatized from
I
it.
definitely cried. It was hard to watch because you can see how much they love each other. And then
Yeah.
it's really interesting how they did like you see things from her perspective, and obviously like he just ups and leaves all the time, and she's like, you don't even have the basic sense of responsibility of a husband, like
Oh,
you're not ready, why did you even marry me? And like from her perspective that's completely valid because he's just like going off to write books, travel books, and like they don't even go together. He just goes by himself, and he can't even sell anything. And then you see after she finds out the truth, she's like, "Don't you realize like now you've made me into the bad person? I can't even freely hate you anymore for what you did to me because now I
oh,
know the truth." And like it's so painful for her. Yeah,
it's
it's so great. There's so many layers.
I agree. And also, there is a moment after she finds out that he's a spy that he basically says, don't apologize to me, apologize, to my friend who you were supposed to protect, or the source who ended up dying. If you have any conscience, you should be feeling guilty about that. She doesn't know how much guilt he carries over these things because she doesn't know anything about
Yeah.
the guy. And given that the only thing she knows definitely about him is that he has lied to her for the entire duration she's known him, it's justified not to trust his sense of responsibility. He hasn't shown any. So, oh God, so painful, but kind of delicious because you can see that it like they are hurt. She is hurt because she's loved him so much.
And then on top
Yeah,
of that, it's not very long before she starts to realize that the husband that she left him for has also been hiding a lot of things from her, and in this
yeah,
case it's actually scary.
yeah.
I don't really want to talk about episode 8 too much since you haven't watched the whole thing, but there's a scene in her office where she kind of
I've
confronts
seen
him.
that.
You watched it with the
I watched that.
scissors.
I watched
That
that.
was such a good scene, and I was in so much pain for both of them. I like, why do I feel sympathy for this guy? But I do. Like, he's terrible, but I feel
He's
for him.
terrible, but he thinks he loves her, and I'm sure he does. I mean, it's not like love is this one monolith that only works in one certain way, right? You can love a person, like parents can love their children and completely ruin their lives. So, and
Absolutely.
that's the most unconditional love supposedly that there is. So love works in all ways. It's perfectly possible that Derek really does love Arum exactly as much as he thinks he does, and still kind of be awful.
So there's this one, I think it might be the first scene in either episode 7 or episode 8, where he's like watching her in their home, and he thinks like to himself, he thinks like, he was talking about how he's always lied his whole life because he was
Oh,
good
that's
at it.
episode 8. Yeah, I
Is it?
love that. I love that beginning.
And
Yeah.
he says like, I've always lied and I'm good at it, and I use it, like for my own benefit. But in the case of Arum, he's like, I've always lied to her because, kind of justifying how like he's gonna make their relationship so strong and love her so much that when she does eventually find out, it won't matter because her love for him will be so strong. And that's the moment where I was like, oh dude, you just don't understand and this is not going to end well for you. And it's kind of like, it's the basic sum total of like why it's not going to work out for her and Derek, and why she does actually have a chance for things to work out again with Jihoon, because Jihoon already knew from the beginning that what he was doing was wrong and lying to her.
Oh God.
And he didn't have any expectation that she would stay with him if she found out,
No, and at the end of the day, this matters. Like where you're, it's bad. It's bad that you're lying. Both of them were lying, but why you are lying is very, very important. He was not just lying because he had to protect his own secret, which of course, I suppose he did, but also the fact that from what little we learned about Arum, she had lost her father in a pretty traumatic way. And if she knew that Jihoon was, and I'm talking about this from Jihoon's perspective when he first met her, if he knew that Jihoon was flying off to like Baghdad or to other like war zones which by the way, whenever they talk about war zones, why is it Baghdad?
I have some more things to say about that. Let's put a pin in that. We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it in a minute. So it's just that if she knew that he was flying off to danger every time, and often to save the lives of people that they didn't know, that they had no connection with, and it's a tough thing to live with day in and day out. And in some ways, I think he preferred being seen as a kind of a irresponsible Lothario than somebody who might die any moment because he has such a risky job. And again, that kind of shows his immaturity, because if you're committing to a relationship, you can't do that. It's not, I mean, you're not trusting your partner really.
Yeah, it's like the most noble idiocy. It's like the end point of extreme noble idiocy, but then like it is still out of care for her, even if it's dumb. And like the reason why I don't mind it is because it's in the past and it caused their relationship to fail. So it's not being portrayed as something good the way that noble idiocy sometimes is. Whereas the lies that Derek has been telling her all this time are really out of self-preservation. Like there's that scene where he meets up with Peter, the lawyer who was in love with Sophie. And he's like, if you really loved her that much, why didn't you, do something about it? And he's like, because that would be terrible for her. And if you really love someone, you shouldn't cling to them and tell them you love them if you know that you're going to like ruin their life. That makes you a really terrible jerk. And Derek's like, yeah, yes, it does. It's like he's just realizing that. The dialogue,
I kind of like it. Yeah.
Can we talk about Autumn for a second and how like she's a better spy than both of her husbands? Because I love her so much.
Oh my God, I loved her from the. Thankfully, she was introduced as a really smart and resourceful woman practically from the get-go. Okay, she was introduced as a woman who has her own business, which she built herself. At no point was it ever implied that her second husband helped her or got her connections, etc., etc. If anything, the connections kind of seem to be hampering her a little bit here. Do you remember that museum scene where she goes to meet this really rich woman in a wheelchair? And the woman is like, oh, your husband is friends with my brother whom I hate, and then treats her like trash. So if anything, her second marriage isn't exactly getting her the best treatment. But, from crime. So it's not like something that she's getting advantage from. she seems to have made it out on her own, like from the trenches of debt and stuff, which I love that the show, I mean, they don't explicitly say it, but it seems to me that that's what the setup of her character is. And the fact that after her marriage broke up, she went to the shooting range and just got really, really good at it. And that moment, like after they've shaken hands, like her and Ji-hoon, they go to the shooting range and they're shooting, and both of them are like hitting bullseye. It just made me so happy.
Yeah, and then she like follows Derek without him knowing. He doesn't figure it out, and then like she figures out so much stuff. She like has more information than the Interpol people do right now. The only thing I don't really understand is like why Ji-hoon is okay. This kind of leads to another thing that I want to talk about. So I don't understand why Ji-hoon is hiding all the information that he found out about Derek from his team. Because I think that's going to backfire on him really badly later on.
Yeah, I kind of agree, but I think it might be kind of like with like this skewed consideration for Arum, because she seems happy with her husband. Maybe I'm not entirely clear.
No,
Like
but
that's the only
especially
reason.
now that he knows that she's found, like he's known for a couple of episodes that she's finding out stuff about him that's making her suspicious, but he's still like splicing that video and erasing him from that video was
Yeah,
pretty
that
hardcore.
way
And the
that
thing,
made no sense.
and
Yeah.
we've gotten some foreshadowing now that like one of the team is probably betraying them, because like otherwise why would they have that whole thing of like the boss asking like if one of us was to betray the team, who do you think it would be? And then like when he's talking to the CIA guy, and the CIA guy is like, you do trust your team? He's like, yeah, I trust them 100%. He's like, you can never trust people 100%. Like obviously someone is going to betray them, right? And then we had that one moment where like the guy who always wears the goofy, like the hat, he was like saying how he can't shoot anymore, and then the guy leaves, and then he's like a perfect sniper. I mean, he has that look on his face. So I'm worried that they're gonna make him into like the bad guy.
Oh no.
And then I'm like, why are we getting these like subtle hints that he might be Muslim? And then like the only bad place in the world is like in Iraq. Like what? That is giving me some like subtle potential Islamophobia vibes that I'm like not really thrilled about. But that's probably the only complaint I have about this show. We'll have to see where it goes, but
We'll have to see where it goes. Yeah, I'm because I asked you guys, right? Like when I first started watching it, I couldn't understand. There was this character in the support team, I forget the actor's name, who's wearing this cap and this like loose top garment that really looks like a Muslim attire, but he doesn't do anything or speak in any way that suggests a certain faith. So
I'm pretty sure they also order a dish for him that has pork in it at one point. So then I was like, oh, so he's
I
not
think
Muslim.
he says that there is like this place has really great pork, something or the other.
Right. So
that seems off. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. Is this like an aesthetic choice that he has? And as you pointed out, in like flashbacks, he was wearing perfectly normal clothes. So did he convert, but not completely? I don't know. Anyway, we're not sure.
It's making my spidey senses go off a little bit, but also like we haven't actually seen anything conclusive, so I'm willing to give
we'll hold judgment there.
Can we reply to some comments?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Freaky Foodie says, I'm so glad you girls are watching this one. I know no one I know is watching this, so I haven't had anyone to squee with. Oh, you can squee with us. Saya's also not watching this, so we can't squee with her, but we've just been loving this so much. And Casey fan said, I wasn't interested in this drama at first, but you girls have made me curious. Definitely going to check this out. Oh no, did you hear all the spoilers that we just talked about?
Yeah, but like these are the kind of spoilers which only make sense after you've watched the drama for a while. I mean, of course, she's eventually going to find out that that her ex was a spy, that her, current is also maybe something. We don't know. We'll find out. But yeah. Freaky Foodie agrees with me. He thinks that he's doing it to kind of protect Arum. And also, okay, so she says it's not to get her involved, but she kind of is already involved in the investigation. Like she's been formally requested to, be involved in I don't know, man. Guys, right now it's kind of one of those things where suspension of disbelief is what's in action, because this is probably a writer's choice to hold back some information so drama can happen later. But it's just that the emotions are so great in this drama, and
Yeah.
the chemistry is so good with all three leads. Honestly, I mean, even the scenes with Derek and Arum, they are they are kind of comfortable in that he's sweet and she's comforted, so it's comfortable. But if his behavior shifts slightly, then she stiffens almost in defense. It's a very interesting dynamic, and I love these actors for being able
Yeah.
to show it so well. So
What's interesting is that her and Eric always spoke to each other in Panma, like informal speech, and
yeah,
her and Derek always use formal speech with each other. And
they
I
do.
noticed that in the beginning, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's a difference. And I was like, oh, maybe she's doing it because, she wants to keep things really respectful this time around and really polite and, really care for each other. And they do have that dynamic, but there's also more distance, right? Like there's more distance in speaking to somebody. It could be more distance depending on your relationship with them. So I
I
thought that
think
was interesting as well, like
they're
the
also
subtle details.
absolutely, and they're also stressing that particular distance in how they treat each other's work, um, and hobbies. I suppose, like when Arum tells Derek that some secret between couples is a good thing. I think that's healthy, and he agrees. And that's like what you like that in a guy, right? Like if he agrees that boundaries are good, secret, that's a good thing to agree to. So she's comforted. But the fact is that he's not actually respecting that. He's going behind her back to find out what she's doing. So it's
He's
that
literally
that's
surveilling every aspect of her life while keeping
exactly.
huge secrets from her. And yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
she hasn't even found out about that yet. When she finds out about that, she's gonna
Oh,
lose it. Um, but
yeah.
it really I like how a lot of these plot and character details say a lot about the characters without them having to like explicitly. I mean, you can, yes, it's because she was hurt so much for opening her whole heart in her first marriage that this time she's not willing to take that risk.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
and like she doesn't have to explicitly say that, it's pretty obvious. But I think they're doing a really good job of balancing like the spy stuff with the emotional sort of love triangle. I don't know, it feels dumb to even call it a love triangle, but
No, I know it is kind of a love triangle if you have this woman who, like, it's an emotional love triangle for Arum if nothing else, right? Like it's not like she's completely stopped caring about Jihoon. You can't. Once you've loved a person, you keep caring about them even if relationships are, kind of dead. Um, but she has, like, her entire relationship with Derek is based on trust. And
mm-hmm.
for that trust to crumble slowly, that's a painful thing. So I admire the drama for taking that on. That's an interesting unraveling to show while still kind of being funny and really fast paced because it's a spy
And it's pretty
dramedy.
thrilling, like they do a really good
Yeah.
job of those scenes where like one of the team, the Gulliver team, is like about to be discovered, and I mean, like, it doesn't actually get old. Like I thought after a few times it would get old, but like they always manage to make it kind of, you're like kind of holding your breath and you're like, oh no, is this the time they're gonna get found out? And then like there's like that character in the Chinese restaurant, Dubong, who's like she's like Sora is like, she's marked him as one of her sources that you don't really
Yeah.
know if he trusts her or not, because they're so like there's a lot of kind of who's double crossing who and who trusts who and who's it's very enjoyable. And
So
I love the Bond stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
So that's his ace writing. They're taking tropes that we're familiar with. These setups, whenever we see them happening, we know what's going to happen. But then somehow, because of the dynamics of the characters, who, like this moment when you have what's the name of the female spy, the Jihoon's friend,
Sora.
Sora. So when you have her trying to make that connection with the guy in the Chinese restaurant,
Dubong.
what's his Sorry, I'm really bad with this. When she's trying to do that, like she drops her watch and he brings that in, and there are those character beats, like she's walking away and then she's waiting for him to notice that she said something, and then to kind of like, wait for that to hook him, and then he says something else, she goes back. That back and forth, it's so well written. It's like a short scene, but it just tells you that the writer thought this through. This is how it would organically happen. It doesn't feel scripted. It doesn't feel like something, a scene that's just inserted to show, oh yeah, she made contact with this guy. No, it's scene that they wanted to be organic, that felt like it could actually happen. So I like that this writer and PD have really committed to the spy genre. So they're giving us actual thrilling scenes that's keeping us hooked.
There's a lot of attention to detail. There's a lot of thought put into the whole, like, because let's be honest, like, we watched Harriet's Behind Me. There's a way to make a really fun, cute drama that's kind of a spy rom-com where you don't really think too hard about the details of the spy stuff. Like, whatever, it's cool. They're wearing suits. Soji Sub is a badass. We love it. But like, they've actually really thought this through. It's a little complicated, but like, you can follow it. All the characters who are involved are interesting. You can identify them, but they also have put a lot of thought into the relationship dynamics, and the dialogue is really, really well written, and it's, complex. It's not like basic and kind of tropey, but it has the tropes, but they're really well executed. And like, I love how they have the background score, which is like always reminding us of Bond, because they have like that swing brass kind of music from like the classic Bond movies. And then there's this one scene where June is with his younger colleague. What's his name? Like Youngu or something. The one, the nerdy one that makes him all the tech, which is obviously another Bond. He's like their version of Q or whatever.
The tech guy,
yeah. And he's like James Bond. He's like 007 never does stakeouts, and he's a fake. All he does is wear suits.
Also, I love that. The tech, how did I forget this scene? It's one of my favorite, like, amongst the funny scenes. You have Jihoon and this guy in a car, and Jihoon can't go out because he's following Arum, and she's just walked into this museum to meet a client. And so he sends the tech guy, and he's like, you know what, like, just see what my tech can do. And so he's wearing this spec camera thing, and he thinks what he thinks is going to happen is, like, as he walks into the museum, Jihoon sitting in the car would be able to see everything he sees in their little dashboard tablet thing. Instead, like, the connection doesn't work, so Jihoon is tapping on the screen, goes like, what does he think is
loading?
Going to
happen? He's so proud of himself. He's like, I made these amazing.
Like, you see this?
Jihoon's like, I can't see anything. Like, I'm not impressed. What's gonna happen? Yeah, it's great. His name is Youngu, the younger guy. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of brutal moments like that just like make me burst out laughing, and that's what makes it such a fun watch.
Exactly.
Any last maybe we should start wrapping up, but do you have any last words about this?
I think so. So last words? No, I left episode 8 hanging because I need to get on this live and I hadn't finished on time. So I'll just go dive back in there now.
Episode 8. The cliffhangers in this are very well done. So episode 8 leaves you on kind of, it's not exactly a cliffhanger, but like, things are about to get a lot more serious. So I'm curious to see how they're going to handle that shift of like things getting a lot more serious in the second half leading up to the finale. So
yeah. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching this live. I hope it was fun, and it was fun for us to discuss this drama.
Yes. Thanks for convincing me. I know Parma's been doing these a few times already, and it's my first time doing any kind of Instagram anything, really. I think I have one post on Instagram, so.
Okay, guys, we gotta go. Thank you for watching.
Bye, everyone.